Alright, this is Diesel We the People News. Alright, one more time. This video is without prejudice or and without recourse. Alright, I'm not giving legal advice, none whatsoever. I'm also not waiving any of my rights whatsoever either. Okay, under duress, I agreed to the terms with UT. And, well, we're never going to just look straight forward, are we? Don't you think it's a good idea to always look around you to be able to protect yourself by any means necessary? Stay out of that cognitive dissonance. Truth is truth, lies are lies. Alright, let's proceed forward on this, shall we? This is part 2, by the way.
You find executive enumerated powers. There's not a lot there. That's the sum and total of Article 2. And what's even more amazing than that is that you have to skip all the way down to Section 2 before you actually get an enumerated power. Everything else in Section 2 is about the construction of the office of the president and the executive branch. You have to get to Article 2, Section 2, Clauses 1 and 2 and 3 before you can even see an enumerated power. And it's very limited. I'm going to give you the bullet point version. The president, under Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1, is the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy and of the militia of the several states when called into actual service. Lie number 1. The President of the United States is not always the commander-in-chief, 24/7.
What? The executive orders don't tend to I? What? The executive orders don't really attend to y'all? The people? Shocking.
The President of the United States is only in the commander-in-chief over the Army and the Navy and of the militia when they are called into actual service. That is another way of saying declaration of war. If there is no declaration of war, the President of the United States is not the commander-in-chief. Pop quiz. Who out there can tell me the last time we had a formal declaration of war from Congress? Go ahead and leave your comment below, and I'll give the answer in just a minute. Power delegated number 2. He can require the opinion in writing of the principal officer of each executive department upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective offices. You see, it is in this section that we understand the general 24/7 authority of the president. What he's going to be doing the majority of his term is not being commander-in-chief, because that only comes under a declaration of war. His primary everyday purpose is to be the CEO of the executive department. That is the primary purpose of the President of the United States. And now we're beginning to understand what executive orders might be about. He is to require the...
Okay. Number 1, I'm going to interrupt this, alright? Love her to death. But I have not seen factual evidence anywhere whatsoever, it's just my opinion, that World War I, or Civil War, is ended, and World War I is never ended. So we technically are still under war. However, the executive power still does not give the president authority over the people. Just the armed forces. Part 2 is like for FBI agencies, CIA and all that kind of stuff. Alright? But remember, y'all, by contract, they entered the state. Alright? They're supposed to ask your sheriff if it's okay to do a no-knock warrant arrest on your house. The sheriff has to give the okay. Still.
Opinion in writing of the officers in each of the executive departments. He also has the power to grant reprieves, pardons for the offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. So we can offer reprieves and pardons for federal offenses, not for state offenses, but for federal offenses. That's it. By the way, these are two right here. These two, CEO of the executive branch and pardons and reprieves, are two of the only autonomous powers of the president. Every other...
So question, y'all. And it's just a question, okay? If Trump was so racist, why did he give a bunch of pardons to certain people that was in prison, and Biden has not, that I'm aware of? Just a question. I don't know.
Authority of the president has to be done with either the consent of the House and the Senate, or the consent of the Senate, or their participation in some way. So if you come across somebody that tells you, like on Fox News when Megyn Kelly was on there, she had some expert, and I hear this, oh, the president has enormous power. The Constitution wrote the president to have enormous power. That's not true. The president literally only has two autonomous powers. Everything else is done with the House and the Senate. Check this out. Article 2, Section 2, Clauses 2 and 3. By and with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties. No deals, guys. Only treaties. There is no such thing as a deal. There is no such thing as an agreement. There is no such thing as an accord. Only treaties, and treaties are only valid if, number one, they are provided with 2/3 of the Senate present concur, and they are made in pursuant to the Constitution. That's Article 6, Clause 2. That's a different class.
So, in short, y'all, IFTA and this new Trump thing that replaced IFTA, it's actually null and void. Because it does not append to the Constitution. Which, basically, in short, what they did is create an interstate commerce thing between Canada and Mexico, and they got the revenue off the people that is running that interstate. Okay? That's unconstitutional, and the Senate had no authority to agree to any such terms, let alone for the president to even bring it up. Just saying.
Is also to nominate, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, ambassadors, ministers, consuls, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the state of the United States, whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for and which shall be established by law.
That was the way it was supposed to be done to actually benefit the states. Until the 17th Amendment, the representatives of the state actually had control, and they did not have 6-year terms. The people went to the representative and said, hey, he's not treating our states fair. You need to fire him. And your state representatives goes in there, calls him into office, says, hey, we're going to have to let you go. You're not doing your job correctly. Or the states, without the people's consent, saying, hey, you're not watching our back, buddy. Which, basically, that's what they wasn't doing. And when they created this IFTA, and this other thing that Trump came up with, I don't know what that is. I can't remember what it's called. It did not benefit the states. Because it gave power to foreign countries.
The President of the United States does not appoints Supreme Court justices. The President of the United States nominates Supreme Court justices. Your senator appoints them. To give to Congress information on the State of the Union address, to convene both houses in extraordinary occasions, to adjourn them under extraordinary occasions. He can receive ambassadors and other public ministers, take care that the laws be faithfully executed, and commission all the officers of the United States. There you have it. Article 2, Section 2, Clauses 1 and 2, and Article 2, Section 3. And that's the power.
In the short, Congress can actually, the Supreme Court has said their lifetime appointments. Congress goes in there, impeaches them. Supreme Court says impeachment exact same way as the president. Then the Senate goes in there and convicts them. They act like judges, just like they did with when they tried it on Trump. So yeah, we need to start demanding a little bit more often about Congress doing impeachments on these federal judges. It's not going by the Constitution. And demanding our senators, since they actually represent the people now instead of the states, to actually convict them and get our Constitution back.
The primary authority, the primary purpose of the President of the United States is to be the CEO of the executive branch. And that's where we get the understanding of executive orders. An executive order is how the CEO of the executive branch gives direction to the second executive branch. Just as a CEO...
In short, the CEO of Walmart has authority over its employees. That's it. Not to the people that walk in there or involve themselves in your household. President has no authority in your household, or even has any business at telling you what you can and cannot do by any mandates, executive orders.
CEO of a company would write memorandums to human resources, to purchasing, to security, to whatever media or marketing. The President of the United States is the CEO of the executive branch. His memorandum to the Department of Justice, his memorandum to the executive agencies. My brain was just trying to figure out a legitimate executive agency under the Constitution, and with the over 100 that we have, you have to eliminate 95% of them. But nonetheless, an executive order is how the CEO of the executive branch gives direction to the executive branch. So executive orders are binding on executive branches. They're binding on executive offices. By the way, that makes them binding on executive officers. So if you work for the federal government in an executive branch capacity, in an executive agency, then guess what? Executive orders are binding on you. They are binding on executive agencies. They are binding on executive employees. And if you take federal dollars, if your private company takes federal dollars, executive orders are binding on you. I guess you understand how you make executive orders not binding on you. You are not a member of an executive agency. You do not work for the federal government, and you do not take federal money. Everybody else, you're on your own.
I had to add, and I'm not 100% sure, y'all. It's just my opinion. But if you get Medicaid, food stamps, and all that kind of stuff, you're taking federal money So, you are bound to the president. You see all these things being forced and crammed down with, and your money taxes are paying Medicaid and all that. They are bounding you into this contract with the executive branch. Just saying. I'm not for sure, y'all. But it seems reasonable.
So I just want to go back to that. If you don't work for the federal government, if you are not a part of an executive agency, if you are not an executive employee, executive orders do not bind you. So an executive order for abortion doesn't touch you if you don't take federal dollars. If you're a hospital that takes Medicaid money, well, there you go. You take federal dollars. What's the key? Don't be a hospital that takes federal dollars. And don't tell me people can't afford health care without Medicaid. That's a lie. Health care is even more affordable when the federal government stays out of it.
I agree.
There are plenty of people that don't qualify for Medicaid that don't actually have money. Watch how the hospitals work with them to pay their bills. And watch how the price of everything is exponentially decreased. Go ask somebody that works at a hospital. You find some indigent person that is not on Medicaid, and you will watch the price of healthcare tumble. It's federal funding.
I've done it, y'all. I went to the hospital and chewed that stuff down. They will actually chew it down. And I've actually, for a couple of surgeries, say, okay, how much is it going to cost? Oh, no. How about this? Don't happen every time, but they do work with you.
That makes everything expensive. So Biden's executive order on abortion specifically does not do what most people are telling you it does. It does not do it. And all the screaming with your hair on fire by either right or left, these are the two main things that the executive order on abortion from President Biden actually does. It encourages use of FDA-approved drugs, translation, what they call the morning after pill, encourages, not mandates, and directs the DOJ. Remember, because if you work for an executive agency, executive orders bind you. The executive order binds the Department of Justice and says, do not allow, and I put that in quotation marks because I'll talk about that in a second, do not allow prosecution of persons crossing state borders for abortions. Well, first off, the Department of Justice and the federal government was not put into existence to police the states. That's not their job. As a matter of fact, the judicial jurisdiction of the federal government under Article 3 specifically eliminated judiciary jurisdiction within that state. So if it happens within the state, it's not in their jurisdiction. Number two, no state is even threatening to...
We go back into, that's the reason why the FBI must come to your sheriff and get the authorization to come into your home. But we've been so dumbed down, we just think that they're the boogeyman. They're the boogeyman because your sheriff is not doing his job.
Prosecute someone for crossing a state border to get an abortion. So guess what this is? Just more huff and puff. More dog and pony. That's all it is. So, it is not law. It is not binding. And its power is so limited that it does not affect states, it does not affect private businesses who do not take federal funding, and it does not affect individuals who do not work for the executive branch. So when you understand how limited and defined executive order authority actually is, and when you understand the limited nature of the executive order as it's written, not as the media from both sides are having you panic about, and then you understand it doesn't even really bind you as an individual, you understand that it's worthless. It's just garbage paper. And its only purpose is to fuel a political base, to fund election campaigns for the midterms. Can I give you another little clue here, guys? This fueling the political basis is not about getting people out to vote. They couldn't give a flip if you get out to vote. Fueling the political basis is about fundraising. The same people are always going to vote. They know that. They even call them super voters. So why do they get people in an emotional fervor before elections? Not so you go to the polls, but so you'll write them a check. So, I hope that you have found this little educational piece on executive orders very empowering, very enlightening, very inspiring, and you're able to share it. Make sure you write down below in the comment sections some things that you learned, what you liked about this show. Share it, not just on your social media, but send it in a text message. Put it out on Twitter for me because I'm banned on Twitter. Repost it on YouTube because I'm not on YouTube anymore. Be creative and help us get this truth out. Because you know what I would love to see? I would love to see the political parties defunded and the money back into the economy. That's what I'd like to see. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. LibertyFirstSociety.com is where you can get this kind of excellent education. You can go to LibertyFirstSociety.com. You can use this QR code. And at LibertyFirstSociety.com, you can also catch our documentary, Non-Compliant, and the trailer for our sequel to Non-Compliant, aptly called Non-Compliant 2, all about the sheriff. Why don't you go watch that trailer now and see just how amazing Non-Compliant 2 is really going to be? Well, I'm Chris Ann Hall.
I actually can't wait to see the Non-Compliant 2 our sheriffs and see how closely I actually do align with her, and see if I can be able to learn even more about the true authorization of the sheriffs. These are We the People News, y'all. Till next time. Bye.